It was a cold and quiet night at the Deep Space Listening Station in Chile. The desert outside was silent, and the sky above was filled with millions of stars shining like tiny white fires. Inside the observatory, Dr. Emma Rains was sitting in front of her computer screens, sipping cold coffee, her eyes half tired. She was an astrophysicist who had spent years studying radio waves coming from space. Most nights were the same, boring, repetitive, and quiet. But that night was different. That night, something happened that would change the world forever. Emma noticed a strange pulse on her screen. It wasn't like the usual space noise she always saw. The signal had rhythm like a heartbeat. It came every 16 minutes, repeating again and again. At first, she thought it was a satellite or maybe interference from a nearby device. But when she checked the coordinates, the signal wasn't coming from Earth or even near Earth. It was coming from deep space, far beyond any known source. Her heart began to beat faster. She had seen thousands of signals before, but this one felt alive, organized, deliberate. She called her assistant, Marco, who was half asleep in the control room. "Marco, come here." "Look at this," she said, her voice trembling. He leaned over her shoulder, watching the data lines scroll across the monitor. "Is this real?" he asked, his voice unsure. Emma didn't answer. She was already running calculations, checking frequencies, removing all possible human-made causes. The pattern stayed. No matter what she filtered out, it remained the same, a repeating pulse with structure. After 3 hours of testing, Emma sent a message to the other observatories across the world. One in Hawaii, another in South Africa, and one in India. She wanted to confirm if anyone else was picking up the same thing. She waited, nervously tapping her fingers on the desk. Then one by one the replies came. "Confirmed," said the message from Hawaii. "Detected," said South Africa. "Signal stable," replied India. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a hoax. It was real. The following morning, the news spread inside the scientific community like wildfire. Every space agency was talking about the mysterious repeating signal. The government ordered the data to be kept secret, but rumors started leaking out. People online began speculating that aliens were trying to contact Earth. Many laughed at the idea, but others believed it. Emma and her team continued studying the signal. She noticed that when they converted the frequency data into binary code, a strange pattern appeared. Rows and rows of ones and zeros forming geometric shapes. When those shapes were plotted visually, they formed what looked like a spiral pattern, repeating 3 times before stopping. Then a pause and again 3 spirals. It wasn't random. Nature doesn't make perfect patterns like that. Someone or something had sent it. Days passed and the world outside began to sense something unusual. Journalists started asking questions. A few leaked photos of the signal pattern began circulating on social media. The internet exploded with theories. Some said it was proof of extraterrestrial life. Others claimed it was an advanced experiment gone wrong. But one thing was certain. The world's attention was now focused on that mysterious message from space. Inside the observatory, Emma hadn't slept properly in days. She could feel both excitement and fear growing inside her. She was someone who believed in science, logic, and evidence. But what she was witnessing made her question everything. Late at night, as the machines hummed quietly, she played the signal on speakers just to hear it. The pulsing rhythm echoed softly in the room. It almost sounded like a heartbeat, slow and steady. Boom, 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 she whispered to herself. "If someone is out there, what are you trying to say?" A few days later, the decoding team finally found something extraordinary. Hidden inside the binary pattern was a short sequence that repeated at the end of every transmission. When converted into simple code, the sequence translated into numbers that matched an ancient mathematical constant, pi 3.141529. That was impossible to be a coincidence. Only intelligent beings could understand or use that concept. The message was trying to say, we know mathematics. We are intelligent. Emma's hands shook as she typed her report. The next day, an emergency global meeting was held between the world's top space agencies. NASA, ESA, ISRO, JAXA, all were present. They shared the data and confirmed the impossible truth. The signal was not natural. It came from deep interstellar space, from a region near the Orion Belt, thousands of light years away. The message's structure suggested it was an SOS, a universal distress signal. It was short, repeating, and urgent. When this was made public, everything changed. The media went wild. People filled the streets looking up at the sky, wondering if someone far away was crying for help. Religious groups claimed it was a divine sign. Scientists gave interviews saying it could be the most important discovery in human history, but governments remained cautious. The White House and the United Nations both warned against panic. They called for patience and scientific verification. Meanwhile, Emma became the face of the discovery. Reporters surrounded her station. Cameras flashed every time she walked outside. Everyone wanted answers, but she had more questions than anyone. Who were these beings? What kind of help did they need? How could they send a message from so far away? One night, while reviewing more data, Emma noticed something even more shocking. The intensity of the signal was dropping each day. It was fading, like a voice growing weaker. She realized the senders might be dying or running out of power. Her stomach tightened. They were calling for help, but time was running out. She wrote a note in her research log. If this is real, someone out there is dying, and we're the only ones who can hear them. Those words haunted her. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined a faraway world, broken, cold, and desperate. Its last survivors sending their final cry across the universe, hoping someone, anyone, would listen. Soon after, global leaders began private discussions. Should Earth respond? Was it safe? Could there be a risk? Some believed helping could lead to knowledge beyond imagination. Others feared it could lead to disaster. But while they argued, the signal continued to fade. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. The final transmission arrived. It was weaker than ever before, barely audible, but it contained one last pulse that was different from the rest. When Emma decoded it, her heart stopped. The binary translated into 3 simple words: SOS, dying, help us. Her team stared at the screen in silence. No one spoke for several minutes. The room was filled with tension and fear. The message was not just a random signal. It was a cry for help from another civilization, one that might not survive much longer. That night, Emma stood outside the observatory, staring up at the endless stars. The air was cold and the desert wind whispered through the silence. Somewhere out there, far beyond the reach of human eyes, a dying world was calling to them. The thought made her shiver. For the first time, she realized humanity was not alone, and maybe never had been. But deep inside, she also felt something else, a quiet fear. What if answering that call would bring something Earth wasn't ready for? What if helping them meant inviting danger? She didn't know. All she knew was that history had changed forever. The sky was no longer silent. Someone out there had spoken first, and now humanity had to decide whether to answer back. The news of the alien signal spread across the world like wildfire. Every country, every news channel, every social media feed was filled with one question: who had sent the SOS from space? People could not stop talking about it. Some felt excited, thinking that finally, humans were not alone in the universe. Others were terrified, believing this was the beginning of something dangerous. What had started as a quiet scientific discovery had now turned into global chaos. Dr. Emma Rains, who had first detected the signal, was suddenly famous. Journalists camped outside her research station. Reporters from every country wanted to interview her. But Emma did not care about fame. She only cared about one thing: understanding the message before it was too late. She spent days and nights inside the observatory working with her team. The signal was still repeating, but weaker now. It was fading slowly, like a voice drowning in deep water. Time was running out. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. It was the first time in history that almost every world leader gathered for one single reason: to talk about a message from outer space. They created a global science and security group called Project Echo. Its purpose was simple: study the signal, decode it completely, and decide if humanity should respond. Emma was chosen to be one of the lead scientists because she was the first to detect it. She felt proud, but also scared. The responsibility was heavy. At first, the project brought hope. Scientists from different countries worked together like never before. Americans, Russians, Chinese, Indians, Europeans, and all shared data and ideas. They worked day and night, running computer simulations, breaking down the binary code, and searching for hidden meanings. The signal structure was strange but beautiful. It was made of repeating sequences that seemed to describe something. Maybe coordinates, maybe biological data, maybe even pictures hidden inside math. Everyone was excited. Humanity had finally come together for something bigger than war or money, but unity did not last long. As more people joined the project, more opinions started clashing. Governments began arguing about what should be done. Some leaders believed humanity must reply immediately. They said, "If they are asking for help, we cannot ignore them. It is our duty as intelligent beings." But others strongly disagreed. They said, "What if this is a trap? What if they are dangerous? Responding could expose Earth's location to something we cannot defend against." The debate quickly turned political. News channels showed world leaders shouting at each other during meetings. Conspiracy theories filled the internet. Some people said aliens were trying to warn Earth about an incoming disaster. Others said the governments already knew everything and were hiding the truth. The world was divided into two groups, those who wanted to respond and those who wanted silence. Emma hated the arguments. She believed that the aliens were truly asking for help. She told her colleagues, if they meant harm, they wouldn't send an SOS, they would just come. But this is a cry from someone who's suffering. Many scientists agreed with her, but military officials and politicians did not. They kept repeating that safety must come first. Emma grew frustrated. Science had given her proof of something extraordinary, but politics was standing in the way of discovery. In the following weeks, public fear increased. Religious leaders called the signal a sign from God. Some claimed it was a warning about the end of the world. Others said it was a test of faith. Protests started in several countries. People demanded that governments tell them the full truth. Many believed that powerful nations were already talking to aliens secretly. Streets filled with banners that read, "Answer the call and stop the contact." The whole world seemed to be losing its mind. Inside Project Echo, the scientists worked under heavy pressure. Every move they made was watched by intelligence agencies. Emma could feel the tension growing every day. Whenever she shared new findings, the information was immediately classified. She was not even allowed to tell the media about her research anymore. "This is wrong," she told her friend Dr. Karim Nadim, an engineer from Pakistan who was part of the team. "Science should be open. The world deserves to know what we're learning." Karim nodded but whispered, "They won't let that happen." "They're scared, Emma. They think knowledge will create panic." But the panic was already there. People were scared because they didn't understand. Fear of the unknown grew stronger than curiosity. Even within the scientific community, divisions started to appear. Some scientists secretly worked with their own governments instead of sharing everything with Project Echo. The spirit of unity was dying. Emma continued to focus on the data. She discovered that the signal contained multiple layers like an onion. The outer layer was the repeating SOS pulse. The inner layers were complex mathematical codes, too organized to be random. When she studied the patterns, she found something that looked like star maps, a cluster of dots connected by lines. One of the dots was marked by 3 repeated pulses. When she compared it to known maps of the sky, she realized it pointed to a small, dying star system near the Orion belt. That was likely the origin of the signal. She presented her findings in a Project Echo meeting. "Whoever sent this is located near Orion," she said. "Their star is old and collapsing. Maybe that's why they sent the message and their world is dying." The room went silent. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Then arguments exploded again. Some said this was proof they needed to help. Others said it was proof they should stay far away. The head of the military section stood up and said coldly, "If they are dying, that means they are desperate. Desperate beings are dangerous. We must not respond." Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You can't assume that," she shouted. They could be asking for help, not invasion. But her words didn't matter. The meeting ended without a decision. Governments wanted more time, more study, more control. But time was exactly what they didn't have. The signal was fading faster each day. Late one night, Emma sat alone in her lab, staring at the glowing screen. The data showed that the signal's energy had dropped by 40%. At this rate, it would vanish completely in a few days. Her heart ached. She imagined those beings on a distant planet, their last hope disappearing while humanity argued. She whispered softly, "We could have saved them, if only we could stop being afraid." The next morning, a leaked video appeared online showing part of the United Nations debate. In it, a few leaders discussed the possibility of using the alien signal for military advantage. They spoke about reverse engineering any technology hidden inside the message. When the public saw this, outrage exploded. Millions of people protested, accusing their governments of greed and secrecy. Chaos spread across cities. For the first time, people were not just scared, they were angry. In the middle of all this, Emma received a private message from an anonymous source. It contained classified government files. Inside was a shocking detail. One country had already attempted to send a small reply to the signal secretly, and they had failed. Their transmission equipment overloaded, causing a massive explosion that killed several engineers. The file ended with one chilling note: "Do not attempt to reply. The energy required is beyond safe limits." Emma sat frozen. So someone had already tried. The message from the aliens was real and dangerous too. But instead of stopping her, it made her more determined. If the signal was too strong for one machine, maybe they needed a different way. Maybe they could send a response safely with more controlled power. She knew it was risky, but deep down she felt she had no choice. The dying signal was a voice calling for help, and she couldn't ignore it. As the days passed, arguments between nations only grew worse. Threats of war even started between two countries accusing each other of hiding alien contact. The world had united under hope, but now it was dividing under fear. Humanity's true nature was being tested. Emma watched the chaos on television one night. Riots, protests, panic everywhere. People burning flags, shouting, crying, praying. She turned off the screen and whispered to herself, "We were given a chance to show kindness to something beyond us, and all we've done is prove how afraid we are." She knew then that she couldn't wait for permission anymore. If the world wouldn't act, she would. She looked at the faint signal still blinking on her computer, weaker than ever but still alive. "Hang on," she murmured to the unknown beings across the universe. "I'll find a way to answer you." Outside, the wind blew across the Chilean desert, and the stars glimmered quietly. Somewhere far beyond human reach, a dying civilization waited, and humanity was too busy fighting itself to listen. But one woman still believed that hope was worth the risk, even if the rest of the world didn't. The arguments between world governments continued for weeks, and while they fought endlessly over politics, the alien signal was dying. Every day the frequency grew weaker. It was like listening to the last breath of someone far away. Dr. Emma Raines couldn't take it anymore. She felt as if the world had turned deaf to the most important cry for help in history. All she ever wanted was to respond, not out of curiosity, but out of humanity. She believed ignoring it was like turning away from someone drowning. She knew she could lose her career, her reputation, maybe even her freedom, but she couldn't sit still anymore. One night, as she sat in her office staring at the fading pulse on her monitor, a quiet knock came on her door. It was Dr. Karim Nadim, her close friend and fellow scientist, carrying a stack of papers and a worried look. "They've stopped the project," he said softly. Emma looked up in disbelief. "What do you mean, stopped?" Karim sighed. "The governments have shut it down. No one's allowed to work on the signal anymore. They say it's too risky. They think responding could bring danger." Emma felt her chest tighten. "They can't do that. We're so close to decoding it completely. This could be our only chance to communicate." Karim hesitated, then whispered, "I know. That's why I came to see you. I think we can still send a reply secretly." She stared at him, shocked. "You mean without permission?" He nodded. "Yes. I have a contact in Greenland who still has access to an old deep space transmission array. It's powerful enough to send a reply if we use the right frequency, but we'll have to work quietly off the grid. No one can know." For a few moments, Emma said nothing. She looked back at the monitor, at the faint heartbeat of the alien signal. She knew the risk. If they were caught, they'd be arrested for breaking international security laws. But she also knew the truth, and the signal would die soon. This might be the last time to make contact. She looked up at Karim, determination in her eyes. "Let's do it," she said. They brought in one more person, Dr. Sophia Lin, a brilliant linguist who had been studying the message's structure. She was quiet but fearless. When Emma explained the plan, Sophia didn't hesitate. "If they're reaching out to us, it's wrong not to answer," she said. The three of them formed a secret team, calling themselves Echo 1. They knew they couldn't use the official equipment anymore, so they began transferring data in small encrypted packets, hiding them within weather satellite channels so no one would notice. For the next 2 weeks, they worked in silence. They studied the alien code deeply, searching for meaning. The more they decoded, the more it looked like a universal distress call. One part of the message showed something that looked like a solar system being destroyed, maybe by its own star, or by some unknown catastrophe. Emma felt chills every time she looked at it. "They were warning us," she whispered once. Karim disagreed. "No, they're crying for help. They want us to understand what happened to them." Sophia spent hours mapping out the structure of the alien language. She discovered that it used mathematical ratios and prime numbers to represent ideas, almost like a universal grammar. "They must know any intelligent species understands math," she said. With this discovery, they started building a reply, something simple, peaceful, and clear. They decided to send back a message using symbols instead of words, one that showed Earth's position in the Milky Way, our DNA pattern, and a small image made of binary dots showing two human figures, one man, one woman, with a wave of friendship between them. Emma added one more part, a repeating signal of heartbeat rhythm, to show life. "If they can understand emotions, this will tell them we're alive," she said softly. They all knew what they were doing was dangerous, but it also felt beautiful, like giving hope to the stars. Finally, after weeks of secret preparation, they were ready. They traveled quietly to Greenland under false names, saying they were part of a research team studying atmospheric radiation. The cold air bit their faces as they stepped off the small plane. The landscape was white and endless, the sky clear and filled with stars. In the distance stood the old satellite facility, rusted, abandoned, but still functional. Inside, Karim turned on the main control panel. The machines hummed to life, filling the room with a low, powerful vibration. As the dish outside turned slowly toward the coordinates near the Orion belt, Emma felt her heart race. Sophia uploaded the message file into the transmitter. Karim began calculating the signal delay and strength. Everything was ready. "Once we send this," Karim said, "there's no taking it back." Emma nodded. "Then let's hope we're sending the right thing." She placed her hand over the control switch. For a moment she thought of her team back in Chile, of the governments arguing, of the billions of people who had no idea what was happening tonight. Then she pressed the button. The transmitter roared to life, sending a sharp pulse of energy across space. The room lights flickered. The computers rattled as the massive dish outside vibrated under the power. "Transmission started," Sophia said, watching the readings. "Signal strength holding steady." The process lasted for nearly 10 minutes. Then silence. The power dropped and the system went still. They had done it. Humanity had spoken to the stars. For a moment, no one said anything. Then Emma whispered, "Do you think they'll hear it?" Karim smiled faintly. "If they're still listening, they will." They stayed up all night watching the instruments. Nothing happened. No change, no signal, no sign. Hours passed, then morning came. They felt exhausted but strangely calm. They had done what they believed was right. 2 days later, everything changed. Emma was back in Chile when she received an urgent call from Sophia. Her voice was shaking. "Emma, you need to see this. Turn on the observatory monitor." Emma rushed to her lab and looked at the incoming data. The same alien frequency had just spiked, a massive surge of energy unlike anything before. The signal was back, stronger and faster, as if something had awakened. Her heart pounded. "They heard us," she whispered. Within hours, space agencies around the world confirmed it. The alien signal had changed direction. It was no longer just broadcasting randomly. It was sending coordinates. But when scientists decoded them, everyone froze. The coordinates pointed to our own solar system. Something, or someone, was coming toward Earth. The news spread fast. Governments panicked. The UN held another emergency meeting, but it was too late to hide the truth. Telescopes around the world detected strange movements near the edge of the solar system. An object, massive and fast, moving toward the inner planets. It wasn't an asteroid. It changed direction deliberately as if it had control. Emma felt both terrified and amazed. They had done it. They had reached another world. But now that world was reaching back. The global response was chaos. Some people celebrated, thinking it was first contact. Others panicked, building underground shelters, praying in fear. Governments started preparing for the worst. Military satellites were moved into position. Everyone wanted answers from Project Echo. But Emma and her friends couldn't say anything. They had broken the law, and now the whole planet was facing the consequences of their secret. Then everything became worse. Security forces arrived at Emma's lab one night. She and Karim were arrested under charges of unauthorized extraterrestrial communication. Sophia managed to escape and disappear. As Emma sat in a dark interrogation room, government agents demanded to know what she had sent. "Tell us exactly what message you transmitted," one of them shouted. She stayed silent for a long time, then said softly, "It was a message of peace." The agents looked at each other grimly. "Well, your message brought something here," one of them said, "and we don't know if it's peaceful." While Emma was held for questioning, the world watched in horror as the mysterious object entered the solar system. Telescopes captured images of it, huge, metallic, and glowing faintly. It was shaped like nothing ever seen before, moving with impossible precision. Scientists estimated it would reach Earth's orbit in less than 2 weeks. The alien SOS had been answered, and now the reply was on its way. From her cell, Emma heard the news on a small radio. The announcer's voice trembled as he spoke. "The object from deep space is now officially within the range of Mars. All attempts to communicate have failed. Its trajectory continues directly toward Earth." Emma closed her eyes. She thought of that night in Greenland, of pressing that button, of believing that kindness was always the right choice. Now she wasn't sure. She whispered to herself, "We answered a cry for help. But what if we invited something we can't understand?" Outside, the stars still shone cold and silent, hiding their secrets. And somewhere beyond the dark edge of space, something was coming closer, carrying the reply to humanity's first message to the unknown. The world was no longer the same after the object entered the solar system. For weeks, every news channel on Earth showed only one story: the arrival. People everywhere were glued to their screens, watching as telescopes captured new images of the mysterious structure moving closer. It wasn't a meteor or a rock. It was artificial. It moved too smoothly, too intelligently, changing speed and direction like it had a mind of its own. Scientists estimated it was almost the size of a city, shaped like a long oval with a glowing line running through its middle. No one knew if it was a ship, a probe, or something else entirely. But one thing was clear: it was heading straight for Earth. Panic spread like fire. Some people prayed, others prepared for war. The internet was full of rumors and fear. Some said it was the end of the world. Others believed it was a new beginning. The governments of powerful nations declared a state of global emergency. Military bases were activated, nuclear missiles were put on alert, and fighter jets patrolled the skies. Every telescope and radar on Earth pointed toward the object. Its movements were unpredictable, as if it were watching them back. Dr. Emma Raines sat in a small, cold interrogation room under government custody. The light above her flickered softly. For days she had been questioned by officials, scientists, and intelligence agents. They demanded to know exactly what she and her team had sent to space. Every time she told them the truth, that it was a peaceful message of life and friendship, they looked at her with disbelief. "You must have hidden something," one of the officers shouted during an interrogation. "No," Emma answered calmly. "We only wanted to show that we exist. That's all." But no one believed her. Outside, the situation was growing worse. The mysterious object had reached the orbit of the moon. Cameras captured images of it passing silently across the dark side, its metallic body glowing faintly blue. People gathered in open spaces at night, pointing their phones toward the sky. News anchors spoke in trembling voices. "It's here," they said. "Something from another world is finally here." In the United Nations headquarters, leaders argued again. Some wanted to send a peaceful welcome signal. Others demanded that Earth prepare to defend itself. The military was ready for anything. They had already placed satellites equipped with energy weapons in orbit. But no one knew if such weapons would even work. The object's technology was far beyond human understanding. It had traveled thousands of light years, something humans could only dream of. While the world waited, Emma sat in silence, thinking about her mistake, or what she thought might be a mistake. She had wanted to help, to respond to a dying voice in the universe. But now that the object was so close, she couldn't help but wonder if they had made a terrible decision. Maybe the signal had never been a cry for help. Maybe it had been a warning. That night, as she lay on the hard bed in her cell, the ground suddenly trembled. The lights flickered again, and the guards outside began shouting. Emma stood up, her heart racing. A few minutes later, an officer rushed in, his face pale. "It's happening," he said breathlessly. The object stopped near the moon. Emma was taken to the main command center. The large screens showed live feeds from telescopes around the world. The massive alien structure was visible, now stationary above the moon's surface. It wasn't just hovering, it was doing something. Strange waves of light were moving from it toward the moon, forming patterns that no one could explain. Scientists analyzed the readings in confusion. "It's transmitting something," one of them said. "We're detecting radio frequencies, similar to the first SOS signal." Suddenly, all global communication networks went dark. Satellites stopped transmitting. Internet, phone lines, and even military systems went offline. The entire planet was cut off. People everywhere panicked. Planes were grounded. Cities went silent. Only a few radio stations remained active, sending emergency messages into the static. In the control room, the only sound was the low hum of backup generators. Then through the speakers, a soft, broken voice began to play. It was the same voice from the original signal, the alien SOS. But this time it sounded closer, clearer, almost human. The voice repeated slowly. "You responded. Thank you. But you shouldn't have." Everyone froze. The room was filled with fear. Some people screamed. Others stared in disbelief. Emma felt her heart stop. The voice continued, growing weaker. "We tried to stop it. We tried to warn. It's coming." Then silence. Moments later, the monitors showed something strange on the moon's surface. The ground near one of the craters began to glow. It looked like light coming from deep underground, spreading outward in cracks. The glow became brighter and brighter until the entire area lit up like a giant lamp. Scientists shouted in panic, trying to make sense of it. "There's energy activity below the moon's surface," one of them cried. "Something's activating down there." Emma stared at the screens, her mind racing. "It's not just a ship," she whispered. "It's triggering something buried under the moon." Everyone turned toward her. "What do you mean?" one of the generals asked. Emma looked pale. What if the signal wasn't from the object? What if it came from the moon itself, from whatever is waking up right now? The room went silent. No one wanted to believe her, but the glowing light kept spreading until it covered nearly a quarter of the moon's surface. On Earth, people watched the event live through telescopes and cameras. The moon, usually calm and cold, now shone with a strange blue light. Some thought it was beautiful. Others saw it as a sign of doom. In major cities, people fell to their knees, praying. Children cried. Soldiers waited for orders that never came. Humanity could do nothing but watch. Then, without warning, the light on the moon dimmed. The glowing lines began to retract, pulling back into the surface like veins closing. The object above the moon moved again, slowly turning toward Earth. Every radar system that was still working detected its shift. It was coming closer. Alarms blared across every base. "It's moving toward us," someone shouted. The world held its breath. Inside the control center, Emma felt cold sweat running down her neck. The screens flickered, showing distorted images of the object approaching Earth's orbit. Suddenly, a strange pattern appeared on one of the monitors, symbols and shapes repeating in loops. Sophia Lynn, who had escaped earlier, was suddenly connected through a secure channel. Her voice came through static. "Emma, it's not a ship, it's a carrier. It's bringing something with it." "What do you mean?" Emma asked. Sophia replied quickly. "The patterns in the new signal, they match the old one. It's not communication, it's a code. It's activating something. The aliens who sent the first SOS, they weren't asking for help, they were trying to stop this thing from spreading." Emma's heart pounded as she realized what Sophia meant. The SOS wasn't a cry for help. It was a warning. The dying civilization had sent the signal to tell others to stay away. And by answering it, humans had invited the danger to come here. Outside, bright streaks began to appear in the night sky as the alien structure entered Earth's orbit. Massive waves of electromagnetic energy swept across the planet. Power grids failed. The night sky shimmered with strange lights like auroras gone wild. Emma could hear people screaming in the hallway, soldiers running, alarms echoing everywhere. Then all at once the movement stopped. The alien object hung silently above Earth just beyond the atmosphere. For a few moments everything was still. Emma watched it on the screen, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The lights from the structure pulsed slowly like breathing. Then, as if it had made a decision, It released a soft glow that spread across the sky like mist. Radio waves picked up one final whisper, the same voice, broken and sad. We tried to stop it. It destroyed us. Now it will destroy you. The transmission ended and the signal vanished completely. For several minutes no one spoke. The world waited for something to happen, for destruction, for invasion, for an answer. But nothing came. The alien structure remained motionless, silent, watching. Then slowly it began to drift back, moving away from Earth toward the darkness of space. Within hours it disappeared beyond the moon, leaving behind only confusion and fear. People didn't know what to believe. Some said humanity had passed a test. Others believed the object had marked Earth for something in the future. Governments ordered everyone to remain silent about the details, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But Emma knew better. She could still hear the voice in her head, those last words echoing endlessly. You responded, but you shouldn't have. That night she stood outside the observatory looking at the quiet moon glowing faintly in the distance. She knew something had changed forever. Humanity had looked into the unknown, and the unknown had looked back. Somewhere deep inside her she felt that this wasn't the end. The signal might have stopped, but the story it carried had only just begun. Months passed after the mysterious object vanished into space, leaving Earth in silence. But that silence did not bring peace. People were still afraid, still confused about what had happened. Governments around the world tried to calm their citizens, saying the event was just a cosmic anomaly. They said the object had been a natural phenomenon, a space rock reflecting light. But everyone knew that wasn't true. The world had seen too much. The sky had glowed. The moon had changed. And the strange voice that came through the radio, people still remembered it. Those words haunted the nights of millions. You responded, but you shouldn't have. Dr. Emma Raines could not forget those words either. After everything ended, she was released from custody, but her reputation was shattered. Some called her a hero. Others blamed her for bringing danger to Earth. Wherever she went, reporters followed her. People wanted answers she didn't have. She stayed quiet, avoiding cameras and interviews, spending her days in her small apartment filled with papers, devices, and old recordings. Every night she sat by her window staring at the stars, waiting for a sound, a whisper, a signal, anything. Then one night, something strange happened. She was reviewing the data from the last moments before the object disappeared, when she noticed a small hidden transmission buried deep in the static. It was a weak signal that no one had seen before. She isolated it, enhanced it, and listened carefully. It was not the alien voice this time, it was a code. A series of numbers and short tones repeating over and over. Emma's heart raced. It wasn't random. It was pointing to something. She immediately contacted Sophia Lynn, her old team member who had escaped government control. Sophia had been living secretly in a mountain region, still working on her own analysis. When Emma sent her the code, Sophia called within minutes. Emma, she said, her voice tense, this isn't over. The coordinates in the signal, they point to somewhere on Earth. Emma's eyes widened. Where exactly? She asked. Sophia hesitated. Antarctica. Emma felt cold as she heard that word. The frozen continent, mostly uninhabited, filled with secrets under miles of ice. They both knew that for decades, scientists had detected strange magnetic anomalies in that region, unexplained heat sources deep underground. But this was different. The signal was directing them there as if something or someone was waiting beneath the ice. They decided to go quietly. With false identities and old research credentials, Emma and Sophia joined a scientific expedition heading to an international research base near the South Pole. The journey was long and dangerous. The plane flew over endless white fields, winds howling outside. Emma stared through the small window thinking about the alien object, about the warning, about humanity's curiosity. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn into something much bigger than they could imagine. When they reached the base, everything was silent except for the constant roar of the wind. The temperature was deadly, but the scientists there welcomed them. They said they had recently detected strange signals coming from beneath the ice, a low hum repeating every few hours. It wasn't natural. Some thought it was geological movement. Others whispered that it sounded artificial. Late one night, Emma and Sophia went out with a small team to the location where the readings were strongest. They carried scanners and lights moving slowly through the snow. The signal grew stronger as they approached a deep crack in the ice, a narrow crevasse that seemed to go down endlessly. Emma leaned over carefully, shining her light inside. The glow reflected off something metallic far below. Her heart skipped a beat. "There's something down there," she said. They began to lower a small camera drone into the crevasse. The screen flickered as the drone descended deeper into the darkness. Suddenly the image stabilized, and there it was. A huge metallic structure buried under the ice, similar in design to the object that had visited the moon. It was old, covered in frozen layers, but it was still pulsing faintly with blue light. The same glow they had seen months ago. Sophia's hands trembled as she adjusted the camera. "Emma, this thing, it's been here for thousands of years?" Emma nodded slowly, realizing the terrifying truth. "The signal we received, it didn't come from space originally. It came from Earth." The words hung in the freezing air. Back at the base, they analyzed the data and found something even stranger. The buried structure was sending the same SOS signal, repeating endlessly, as if it had been doing so for ages. It wasn't calling for help. It was trying to keep something locked away. The help humanity sent months ago may have been misinterpreted. The alien object that came to the moon, it hadn't come to invade. It had come to reinforce the seal, to stop whatever was inside the Earth structure from waking up. But now it was too late. The more Emma studied the readings, the more she noticed changes. The ice around the structure was melting rapidly, not from heat but from vibration. The buried object was awakening. Strange patterns began appearing in the magnetic field, spreading across Antarctica like invisible waves. The base's equipment malfunctioned. Lights flickered. Radios hissed with static and broken whispers in languages no one could recognize. Then the ground shook. A low, deep rumble echoed through the valley. Everyone ran outside. The night sky was clear and full of stars, but the snow beneath their feet vibrated like something alive. The ice cracked, splitting open in long lines that glowed blue. Emma could feel her heart racing as the crevasse widened, revealing more of the metallic surface below. It was enormous, bigger than any human structure. Suddenly, a blinding beam of light shot up into the sky from the crack, piercing through the clouds. The whole sky turned blue for a moment. Radios worldwide picked up the signal again, the same old alien voice repeating the same broken words. "It's coming. It's coming." The scientists fell to their knees, some crying, others frozen in disbelief. Emma and Sophia stood together, staring at the light. "We have to stop it," Sophia whispered. But how could they stop something that wasn't even human? Something that had been sleeping for millennia? Emma clenched her fists, realizing the truth. The aliens who had sent the warning, they weren't the threat. They were victims of the same thing that was now awakening on Earth. As the light faded, the ground went still. For a moment, there was silence again. Then from deep beneath the ice, a faint hum began to rise, steady, rhythmic, alive. The structure was fully awake. Emma and Sophia knew they had to leave before the entire glacier collapsed. They packed their equipment and ran through the snow, chased by the sound of cracking ice. Behind them, the ground split open wider, revealing flashes of metallic light and movement beneath. They escaped to the helicopter just in time. As it lifted off, Emma looked down and saw a shape forming under the ice, massive and dark, stretching for miles. Whatever it was ancient, and now it was free. Back at the base, communication with the outside world was impossible. The global networks had started failing again, just like before. Sophia tried to send emergency signals, but there was no response. Then one of the scientists who stayed behind came running into the room, pale and shaking. "You need to see this," he said. On his screen was a live satellite image. Around the world, strange energy readings were appearing. In deserts, under oceans, inside mountains. It wasn't just Antarctica. Similar signals were waking up everywhere. Emma felt her knees weaken. "It's spreading," she whispered. She realized the horrifying truth. Whatever the aliens had tried to stop had already reached Earth long ago. Humanity's message had triggered its return. Days later, the story was leaked to the world. Videos and photos of the blue lights over Antarctica spread online. Governments denied everything, but people knew something terrible was happening. Strange lights began appearing in the sky over major cities. Magnetic fields disrupted compasses. People heard low humming sounds at night, vibrations that made their bones ache. Some said they saw shadows moving across the stars, as if something huge was approaching from the void. Emma and Sophia went into hiding again. They knew the end had already begun. Sitting inside a small safe house in South America, Emma looked at the night sky. The stars seemed dimmer now, almost trembling. Sophia sat beside her face pale but calm. "Do you think there's still hope?" she asked. Emma smiled weakly. "Hope is the one thing humanity never loses. But we need to understand. We opened the door. Now we have to face whatever comes through." Far above the planet, beyond the clouds and atmosphere, the stars shifted slightly. For a brief moment, something enormous passed between them, silent, dark, and alive. And as it moved closer, the weak remnants of the alien signal echoed once more through the static of the universe. "You responded. And now, it begins." Emma closed her eyes, the words echoing inside her mind. The world had entered a new chapter, one written not by humans but by the unknown itself. And she knew that somewhere out in the endless dark, the real story of humanity's response was only just beginning.